In trading, the shame that follows a mistake rarely makes noise. Sometimes it appears as a justified loss, a convenient explanation, or an incomplete journal entry. The money is already gone. The real risk comes later, when shame starts modifying your review. If your analysis protects your image more than the facts, you are not processing the loss, you are hiding it. And if you hide the mistake, you also hide the pattern you need to correct. Describing the loss with precision is also risk management. This insight explains how shame can push a trader to conceal, downplay, or postpone recognition of a mistake and the loss attached to it. The problem is not only emotional discomfort. The problem is that once the truth is hidden, review quality, accountability, and process repair all become weaker. Shame after a mistake does not always look dramatic. Very often it looks quiet. The trader does not need to slam the desk or rage at the screen. He only needs to feel that what happened reflects badly on him. From there, concealment starts to feel attractive. The loss gets minimized, the explanation gets blurred, the journal entry gets postponed, or the trade is filed in language that protects self-image more than truth. At that point, the account has already taken one hit, and the process is about to take another. The key difference between guilt and shame matters here. Guilt says something was done badly and can be corrected. Shame says something about me has been exposed and needs to be hidden. In trading, that distinction is decisive. A guilty trader can document the mistake and learn from it. An ashamed trader starts editing the record. He wants distance from the event more than clarity about it. That is why hiding the loss often begins as a self-protective reflex before it becomes a process problem. This concealment can take many forms. Some traders avoid logging the trade for hours or days. Some traders rename the mistake as bad luck, volatility, or unusual market behavior. Some leave out the most embarrassing detail, such as that the entry was impulsive, the stop was moved, or the size was wrong. Others share the win later, but keep the loss private. In every version, the same thing is happening. The trader is trying to reduce the emotional pain of being seen, even if only by himself, as having acted badly. The operational cost is larger than it looks. Once the loss is hidden, the review is contaminated. The lesson cannot be extracted cleanly because the facts have been softened. Patterns become harder to detect. Repeated mistakes can survive for months because the trader keeps protecting identity instead of exposing behavior. In that sense, shame is expensive, not only because it hurts, but because it blocks the exact transparency that would allow the process to improve. The hidden loss keeps charging interest inside the system. Shame after a mistake also affects the next decision. A trader who has hidden one loss is more likely to defend against the next one in equally distorted ways. He may avoid a needed review, resist feedback, or over-explain why the mistake was exceptional. Sometimes he tries to repair the feeling by trading better immediately, which only adds performance pressure to an already loaded state. The hidden loss does not disappear. It simply moves from record-keeping into behavior. This is why honesty after a mistake is not only moral, it is technical. A process cannot protect what it is not allowed to see. The trader who records the loss plainly gives the system something real to work with. That does not make the event pleasant, but it does make it useful. Once the mistake is named cleanly, the review can separate setup quality, execution quality, and emotional state. Without that separation, the mind fills the gap with self-protective fiction. The correction begins with making truth smaller than shame. The trader needs a repeatable rule for post-loss logging that is simple enough to survive embarrassment. That may mean writing the trade before checking the next chart, using a fixed template, or requiring one plain sentence that names the actual mistake without decoration. The goal is not emotional self-punishment. The goal is to stop identity management from rewriting the record. A helpful question is direct. If another disciplined trader read this note, would they understand what really happened? If the answer is no, shame is probably editing the story. Once that is visible, the way forward becomes clearer. The loss may still sting, but an exposed mistake can be repaired. A hidden one usually repeats. That is why the real recovery after a shame-loaded loss is not silence. It is accurate description. The trader who can tell the truth quickly gives the process a chance to protect him before the next mistake asks for hiding too. That is why fast and accurate documentation is a form of risk control. The trader who can write, "I broke the rule here, I hid the loss here, and I do not want to admit this part," is already interrupting the concealment cycle. Shame loses some of its leverage when it is forced into specific language. The event may still hurt, but the process is no longer blind. Once the truth is written plainly, the account stops carrying an invisible burden, and the lesson becomes available to the next decision, instead of remaining trapped behind self-protection.